Good evening. How are you guys doing? I was not expecting to make a video this late. I was pretty much on my way to, well, not going to sleep. I was waiting for a video that's coming up on YouTube to come on, a live video that's coming on in a little while. And I just got off another YouTube live with Professor Griff from Public Enemy. And his topic that he went in on, if you would, for his live was the sex trafficking ring that was just busted in Georgia, where all of those kids, I believe it was like 39 of them, they found these children, and they were all part of a sex trafficking ring. And he was asking us questions on why we thought that sex trafficking, pedophilia, is such a big problem. And I thought it was a pretty decent conversation. I think Griff is a pretty wise man. He tackles some tough topics, and he always gets us thinking. So shout out to Professor Griff. I appreciate him having those hard discussions that a lot of people in our community have a hard time talking about. But that's not what I want to. I want to zone in on some things that I ended up sharing while in that live, because um, I hate to use the trending word triggered, but I thought about some things that I have been through. Um, yes, I have been molested before as a child. Um, One of the people, because I was molested by several people in my past, and family friends, people in church, what have you. One of the people that molested me was my uncle, and he was a New Orleans police officer. Okay, the abuse happened between, oh gosh, I want to say between 8 and 11, and basically, I was going to school, living with my aunt and my uncle, and I had to live with them in order to go to school. So I was staying with them, and my uncle would come home after he would get off work and finger me, get me in the room, tongue kiss me. He did try to have intercourse with me. I would cry a lot because it hurt, basically. But looking back now, I'm just gonna be blunt. He was not that big, but for an 11-year-old kid, it was pretty huge. Okay, most of the things that we did was oral sex. He introduced me to oral sex. He introduced me to porn. He took pictures of me. Um, Told me that I looked more beautiful than the women in the porn magazines. Took pictures of my genitals. Uh, he was a freak. And basically, there was times where he would have tell my aunt, "Oh, I'm taking Wendy to Baskin and Robbins, and we're going to pick up some ice cream." And we're at the stoplight, and he's fingering me, and then he licks his fingers and says, "Your finger looking good. You taste better than ice cream." And we're at the red light, and people are in the car right next to us, and I'm in a police squad car, and my uncle is fingering me. Who do I tell, right? Uh, it was a crazy, crazy thing because you go to the police when a crime has been committed against you, but what do you do when the police is the criminal and the pedophile? And so it was not a great time in my life, apparently. Um, it went on for, I want to say, about a year. Because even when I stopped going to school and I went back home, everybody would gather by this aunt in my uncle's house all the time for Sunday dinner, after church, barbecues, what have you. I mean, this was the favorite place for all the family to hang out. And every time I went over there, he couldn't keep his hands off of me. He couldn't keep his tongue off of me. Um, and it got to the point where I used to just not want to go over there anymore because I got tired of. I felt like I was sneaking around. He always made it seem like I was always very well developed for my age. Okay, so in his mind, he treated me like I was his girlfriend, and I was a kid. You know, I was a kid, and it was crazy. I couldn't tell anyone because he told me not to. And like I said, he's the police. Who am I going to tell? He's the police, okay? And he's fingering me, and he's doing these things. He's taking pictures of me, comparing me to porn stars. Don't tell your aunt because she's not going to believe you. Everybody in the family is going to hate you. You have to understand, my nickname in the family is Wendy. And, I was always a very good girl. I gave no one problems whatsoever. Everybody was, oh, she's such a good girl. And, oh, she's so sweet. And yada, yada, yada. But they didn't realize or recognize that I was being molested. Okay? Or they recognized it and did not care. Eventually I stopped going over there. I did tell my father, and this is not an indictment against my dad, but some of us come from an era and a time when black people just did not deal too well with molestation and child abuse. And so he pretty much didn't do anything about it, and I wasn't supposed to say anything to anyone about it, basically. And I was one of the oldest female cousins in the family, and I had younger female cousins that I knew were still going over there. And my fear was that he was doing the same thing to them that he had done to me. And so once I saw that my dad did not do anything about it, I called the police eventually. And my best friend, I'll never forget, her name was Lisa. She lived across the street from me. When she saw the police pull up, she knew what had happened. I had told her. She held my hand, and the police was, interviewing me outside. My dad wasn't there, and my mom and dad had separated, so I was staying with my dad and my brothers. And so I told them what happened. My dad was livid. He told me I wasn't part of the family anymore. I do remember going to the police department one time, and the only thing I remember is they pretty much didn't do anything. They chose not to do anything about it. And I thought for a long, long time it was because they were covering up for him because he was a police officer. Not at that time, because I was a kid. I didn't really understand police corruption and the stuff that police officers do within police departments. So it didn't really cross my mind then. I just took it at face value that they're not going to do anything about it. And but the thing that hurt me was that my dad pretty much told me I wasn't a part of the family anymore. And, because I had reported this crime to the police. And we come from a very religious family, and so we was going to church still. And I never forget my aunt. My aunt yelled at me. We was in church. You know how when they have offering and everybody come off the choir stand and go march around and give the offering in the offering bucket and march down the aisle. And then everybody in the pews will file in after them to go get the offering. And I remember sitting in the back of the church, and my aunt was in the choir stand, and when she passed by me in the aisle, she was yelling at me, pretty much calling me a liar. Um, my family did not believe that my uncle molested me. It is, without getting into too much of the family business that I'm not going to put out here on social media, um, they thought that I had other motives and reasons for implicating my uncle in sex abuse. But no, it wasn't that. He really did it. He was a pedophile. He was a pervert. Julian, NOPD veteran, the uncle and brother-in-law and whomever that everybody just worshipped, was a straight perv pedophile. So I ended up leaving my dad's home because I was heartbroken, because I was pretty much ostracized from the family, because I took a step and said, "Hey, this happened to me, and I don't want him to do this to my cousins." And so nobody really understood that and received that, and that's when the black sheep, bam, was branded on my head, and I was the black sheep of the family, and I was no longer nice, get along Wendy, and she's so sweet and she's so kind, and then everybody was, "Oh, you need to learn to forgive and to forget," and blah 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 blah. I heard that for many years. I just kept my distance, not just because of what he did when I was a child, but a lot of people don't know that even after I had gotten married, I had my first son, Donovan, and I was pregnant with my daughter, Damaris. So I was a grown woman, right? Pregnant. I was on Canal Street in New Orleans, catching the bus to New Orleans East, and lo and behold, I'm at the bus stop, and who pulls up but my Uncle Julian? Now, a little history. By this time, he had had a stroke. Um, it was rumored that when they found him all stroked out, that he was in a hotel room with somebody else, and he got a stroke, a caught stroke, while cheating on my aunt. I don't know how true it is. It's kind of like irrelevant, but anyway, he was stroked out, and you would think that everybody was always saying, "Oh, Julian is harmless now because he's all stroked out, and he's harmless to anyone. He can't do nothing. He can't get nobody. He can't harm anybody. He probably can't even get it up anymore." So the rest of the family kept going around him when my aunt will have all these things for holidays and dinners, what have you. But I did not go. I never went back, because when he offered me a ride home that day, when he saw me at the bus stop pregnant with my daughter and my toddler son Donovan, and so I took it because it was hot, I was tired, I was pregnant, and I'm like, okay, everybody's telling me he's harmless. He had a stroke, he stroked out, surely he's not going to try anything, or saying that he probably don't even remember doing anything to me. So here's my mindset. So I was like, I'm just going to take that ride because it's hot. And I took the ride. And do you know what this man said to me? He pretty much said, he remembered doing things to me. He's like, "You're still beautiful, and I still remember this, and I remember that, and I would still love to be with you," and yada, yada, yada. I'm married and pregnant with a toddler. And my pedophile uncle, who was a police officer, was stroked out, who had molested me while he was a police officer, is now approaching me and propositioning me as a grown woman. So I got out that car, and I made up in my mind, I am not ever seeing, I don't want to see this man no more because that's a demon. That's a straight demon. Because I got to backpedal just a little bit more. He did come to my mom's house where I had left after I left my dad when I was a teenager and asked for my forgiveness. Oh, I want to say some other things, but I can't. But anyway, I told him I did forgive him, and I did forgive him. But this man was just a straight pervert. He was sick. He was a sicko. And he was on the police force, people. What's my reason for sharing this with you? I'm not just sharing this for you so that I can get clickbait and you can, read about my story and whatever, whatever, whatever. But I'm sharing this with you to let you know that there's a reason why there's so much sex trafficking going on out here. There's several reasons. And, Griff's program just got me really thinking about a lot of stuff, right? And we need to really be careful. And the people who we really don't think are pedophiles and that are part of sex trafficking rings are pedophiles and are part of sex trafficking rings. And we need to be very vigilant in the black community in particular about who these people are. And we can't do this. Oh, they're not. I don't believe it. They're an upstanding, loyal person. They're on the police force. That's the pastor of my church. Oh, that's my boy that I grew up with. They're always trying to put down the black man. We can't do that. We can't go there, my people, because pedophiles are banking on you covering for them and not holding them accountable and not thinking that they're capable of being a pedophile when they're the main ones that are pedophiles. Nobody would have ever believed that my Uncle Julian, an NOPD veteran, was a pedophile, but he was a pedophile. He was a perv. He took pictures of girls. He performed oral sex on girls. He had intercourse with girls. He and he did it on company time, in the company car, on company dime. Police officers are part of this stuff too. The reason why they have a hard time finding some of these these kids sex trafficking, because some of the police officers and people in law enforcement are some of the pedophiles, and they're covering for each other. Okay, you know somebody who's a pedophile in your family. You can't do this. Oh, we can't report the black man to the system. If he's a pedophile, you better report him. You better report her. That man introduced a demon seed of perversion, sexual perversion in my life that manifested in many different ways. Some ways I'm not proud of in my life. And it took me a very long time to get healed and delivered of a lot of different things. And it all stemmed from the fact that not only did he introduce certain sexual acts and perversions to me, but that whole cover up and the whole shroud of secrecy that is so prevalent in our community, it helps feed the demon of pedophilia. And the more that we cover for people and the more that we act like this stuff is not happening in our families, it's not happening in our churches, it's not happening in our schools, it's not happening in our sports teams, it's not happening anywhere, the more that we act like it's not happening is the more that it grows. And it's the more that children are victimized, are molested, sex trafficked, disappear. This is some real stuff that's going on. We need to stop closing our eyes to it. We need to start acting like it's not happening in our church. It's not happening in our families. It's not happening in our police departments. It's not happening. It's happening in the government. There are government officials that are pedophiles. Why do you think all these laws that are being passed so easily that secretly, slowly making pedophilia a sexual preference? Because some of those people that's allowing those laws to pass are secret pedophiles. We got to wake up. We got to be more vigilant, and we have to look out for our kids and grandkids. And that's real. And we got to stop covering for people. Time for that is long gone. I got to go. Y'all be safe and have a great evening. Watch out for the babies.